cinema's great horror moments. The standout scenes from films such as Jaws, The Exorcist and The Shining that have left a fair number of cinema-goers troubled, if not traumatised, owe as much to the music used as to the graphic images on screen. Take Mike Oldfield's prog rock album, tied forever to terror after director William Friedkin decided to use it in his film of The Exorcist. Tubular bells turned into satanic bells and fitted the story of Regan, a 12-year-old girl possessed by a demon, perfectly.
Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells fitted The Exorcist like a glove. It is a curiously chilling and yet piece of music.
Tubular Bells is a strange time signature. It never really allows you to relax into it. You never feel quite comfortable with it. There's something very unsettling about it, and it has a sense of urgency. Always something about to happen.
Total Films' Rosie Fletcher and composer Neil Brand.
I can remember buying Tubular Bells when it first came out, and it was one of those albums you could just sit there and listen to again and again and again, and you would hear more and more in it each time. But that opening motif of that little piano roundelay has within it a kind of strange pathway. It's slightly disturbing because it just repeats and repeats and repeats, but what it's repeating doesn't feel like a logical progression of notes, and yet it's also at the same time a nice warm progression of notes across a chord that's actually quite warm. It's across a major 7, and that is a warm sound. And so putting that over the slow creeping horror of The Exorcist. Everybody thinks The Exorcist is about the horrific demonic sort of moments with spewing up green bile, vomit and the rest of it. Actually, The Exorcist is not about that. It's about the build-up to that. It's about the slow realisation that this poor girl has changed. And so the music, I think, is about that dawning realisation. It's very slow, but it's this kind of sense of an oncoming evil. But it's also about the exorcists, it's about the two priests, it's about their mortality because of it, and indeed their own sin and all the rest of it. So the music kind of comes from somewhere more peaceful, and I think that's why it works. It's chilling, but in a way that actually makes you feel very much part of what you're seeing on the screen.
The Exorcist itself, one of the things I particularly love about The Exorcist is the strangeness. So while there are sequences, iconic sequences, for example, of vomiting green goo, it's not that frightens me, it's the unnaturalness.
Including The Omen in 1976. Richard Donner's film tells the story of an American diplomat who adopts a child, only to find his son is the devil's spawn.
The Omen came out off the back of The Exorcist's huge success. The public had a big appetite for demonic possession. And of course it deals with the son of the devil being born to an American diplomat in his life. And for that, Jerry Goldsmith did something very clever, which was that he wrote a satanic ritual for voices, Ave Satana. And what that does is not only give you a kind of sense of a sort of brooding evil, because it actually builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, it gets louder and louder. But for me, what was clever about it was it suggested that there were hundreds of people out there who actually were worshipping the devil and wanted the devil's son to come. And so it's almost like you're kind of going, if there's enough people make a choir, if somebody's written this thing, then there must be devil worship all over the place. We are all in deep trouble. And you hear that as the baby is conceived in this horrific way. Very, very clever, very kind of dark. And also Jerry Goldsmith uses big discords. It's one of the things you notice with horror music is that it kind of distresses music we might recognise. It takes it and it messes it up, and in doing so it messes with our heads. We hear chords we're not used to, we hear tunes that go off at different tangents. It doesn't hold together as a piece of music that we can relax with, and that's the point. It wants us on the back foot, it wants us to feel uncomfortable from the first moment the film's done.
Film critic Rosie Fletcher.
The Omen is a brilliant film in many ways because, of course, you have the psychological element and you have the drama and the politics and the fascinating story. But it was also, for me personally, the first film where I really fell in love with the kills, if you know what I mean. Early on, the photographer David Warner has his head lopped off by a sheet of glass. It's an incredible sequence, shot from lots of different angles, and later on, the priest is spiked by a church spire. One of the scariest scenes in The Omen for me is actually an early scene where Gregory Peck is going to investigate who the real mother of his adopted son Damien is, and he goes into a churchyard, finds himself surrounded by these barking hellhounds, and it's extremely tense and extremely nervous. And in fact, actually, you have that sense of fear and violence. And of course, when they finally open the tomb, inside it's the body